So I'm here today with the wonderfully vibrant Kerry Buckmaster, urban forager and founder of Invisible Foods. Based in South London, over the years she's taught herself everything that she needs to know about identifying and foraging fresh foods from an urban environment. Hello Kerry, lovely to meet you.
Hi.
So can you tell me a bit about Invisible Foods and how you came across urban foraging?
Yes. So the project began in 2008, and it began as a commission to look into the concept of play in urban environments. And I wanted to learn about plants. I knew nothing about plants at the time, beyond kind of like knowing what nettle or dandelion was. And basically over the years I taught myself through looking at books and going on a few courses. And I invited other people along with me to go out foraging, and I realised that people were really interested in urban foraging, and the project grew and grew and is still going today, 6 years later.
Fantastic. It all sounds as if it's taken off very nicely and people are showing great interest, which is wonderful. So what attracted you to urban foraging in particular in London? Why not out in the countryside or coastal foraging?
Yeah, so for me, foraging in an urban environment is a perfect way of getting to know and connecting to nature and wildlife in an urban space. At the time when I began foraging, I had a little baby who was 1, and I wanted something which would take me and him out into outside and into nature and the green spaces, and I could kind of accompany him on the swings and everything while casting my eyes to the ground and looking for dandelions and daisy leaves and learning basically and spotting what was where in the green spaces.
That sounds lovely. So do you have a favourite spot to forage in London?
So I guess in London we are blessed with many green spaces, and I tend to go to the ones that are close to me and the ones that I go to with my son. So in Brixton and Camberwell, go to Myattsfield Park. We have a lovely nature garden there. Ruskin Park as well. Brockwell Park is great. Got many green spaces to forage from around us.
Fantastic. And it seems that Invisible Foods and your general approach to urban foraging is very much driven by a sense of community and bringing people together. And you've just published a book, Street Food, Urban Foraging and Wild Food. It's based on the unique concept of I guess, using food to bring community together. Can you perhaps tell us more about that?
Yeah, the book is structured, there are 12 chapters, one for each month of the year, and each chapter focuses on a different region's cooking, and that's based on areas in the world that there are people from in London. So for example, we look at Southeast Asia, Vietnam, Thailand in chapter 1. In chapter 2 we look at East Africa. Chapter 3 we look at East Asia, China, Japan. And there are recipes to cook dishes which are kind of representative of that region's cooking, but with wild food. So it's quite a creative and playful take on wild food, and also this take that we use wild food to cook world food, and that is an attempt to connect people from all over the world who live in London to nature, suggesting that the nature and the wildlife spaces that are in London belong to them as well.
That's fantastic. And do you have a particular favourite recipe in your book, perhaps inspired from a certain part of the world, also using some of your favourite ingredients that you foraged yourself in London?
Yeah, I've got a few favourite recipes. I really like the Vietnamese rice wraps, which we stuff with wild plants like dandelion and chickweed, and that's a January recipe, so it's something you can forage in the winter. Chickweed particularly likes the cold and the wet weather, so it's ideally suited for winters in London. Another of my favourites is a dish in the month of August which is dedicated to Caribbean food, and it's my take on the rice and peas classic dish from the Caribbean, and it's yellow rice and elderberries. So for me the little elderberry looks like a little pea in the dish, and it's very visually striking.
Well, I'm getting hungry just listening to all of these lovely recipes. Definitely worth checking out then. So where can people buy your book?
So they can get it from me personally, or it's on Amazon, or go to my website kerrybuckmaster.co.uk and /street food, and you'll find it there.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, you mentioned earlier that people are very much engaging with urban food foraging, and it's something new for them. It's great for their kids to get involved with. Why do you think urban food foraging is growing in popularity in London?
Well, as you say, I think it's a way, people are realising it's a way to connect to nature. It's something that takes them outside, into the outdoors, into the green spaces. And the brilliant thing about foraging is that you can actually eat something. So you learn about the wild plants by tasting them. And that is something that's unique. You're not just breathing in the green, in the fresh air. You're actually eating, you're trying dandelions, you're trying nettles. And what better way to learn about something than eating it? So that's why it really works with kids, especially for kids to try and expand their taste horizons by trying new things. And they'll often say, oh, that's yucky, but there's always some child in a group who will try, and all of the other children look at him kind of like with admiration, saying, oh, well, he's just eaten some wild sorrel, I'm going to try it too. So it's very interesting working with this with children.
That's fantastic. Sorrel generally isn't the kind of thing that children would choose to eat, so it sounds as if it's really helping them broaden their horizons at a young age. Okay, so let's say you're talking to a group of beginners, you're introducing them to urban foraging. What are the essential tips that you'd give to beginners in terms of picking safely, choosing food wisely?
So I would always play it safe. I personally am not an expert. I've just taught myself through books and going on the occasional course. Be 100% sure of what you're picking. And in my book, I only work with plants that are very, very easy to identify and aren't easily confused with other plants. And I avoid mushrooms as well, not because I'd like to learn about mushrooms, but I don't feel confident to teach people about them. So be super safe. And in the book, I focus on about 20 plants that are easy to identify.
Fantastic. Okay, and how do you suggest people get started in urban food foraging?
So I would take either my book or another of the books that are on the market. Food for Free, which maybe is very good. Roger Phillips' Wild Food is one of the best ones. And just go out and start looking. Don't wait to find a teacher. Just go out and start doing it yourself. And cross-reference to a book. Take 1 or 2 leaves of a plant home to have a look on the internet afterwards. And just go out and do it.
Can you recommend any spaces in London where people can go to get started?
I would go anywhere, to be honest. Places like Hampstead Heath and any of the big commons are particularly good. There are some kind of health and safety guidelines which are worth remembering. Never pick from the side of the road. And if you go to a park or green space that's never been built on, then that's a safer place than some of the new parks that were established after the Second World War, which were previously built on. And there may be traces of lead in the soil from lead piping and Victorian housing. And just remember that any house or bush or tree is a barrier to pollution. So that's why I never put from the side of the road, but always kind of like 20 or 30 metres away from the road. And be aware of dog-free areas. In many parks there are some dog-free areas. So be aware of dog-free areas and also the height of the plant off the ground if there are dogs walked in the area that you're picking from.
Excellent advice. I think I might take some of that on myself. Okay, in terms of perhaps doing a bit of research, as you say, people can look online to look at what they're picking. Can you recommend any websites out there that people can perhaps have a Google for?
Yeah, so UK websites, Eat Weeds is a very good website, and also Fergus Drennan's website, Fergus the Forager. Fergus is based in Kent and his website is particularly useful and well researched.
Fantastic. And once more, your book, Street Food, Urban Foraging and Wild Food, is available from
Invisible Press, and you can get it from my website, kerrybuckmaster.co.uk/streetfood.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much. It's been absolutely fascinating.
Thank you.